Hey, everybody. You're listening to the Total Basis Podcast. I'm your host, Felipe Emilicio, and with me is my guest, Harry It's been a while, Harry. Harry Siberium, how you doing this evening? Morning.
Good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing as well as I can be right now, all things considered. It's my birthday weekend,
Happy
and I
birthday again.
thank you so much. But I feel every bit as the over 40 something that I am today. But yeah, we're here to talk about, well, we're here to catch up with you. I kind of lost my way with you. It was supposed to be a weekly thing, but then I got distracted by other stuff, and I figured, well, if I talk about my league, it doesn't make sense to bring in Harry because he's not in that league. So I would bring in people from
Right.
those leagues, and it just kind of snowballed into we're just going to talk about these leagues for the foreseeable future as a way as a catalyst for every episode, and that's why it just didn't make sense to have you on. But I made some time to have you on this weekend, and last we checked, you and your friend Joe, right? That's your
Yep.
buddy's name.
Joe Pollock. Yep.
You were embarking on this baseball journey, and it was what was it? Your first endeavor
My,
into fantasy baseball since 2009, probably. Go ahead.
yeah, about 2009-ish. Yeah, it's the last time I've played. And the last time I played, like, seriously, like, because that was just like a work league thing that we didn't really, it wasn't taken serious. But the last time I played for seriously was back in like 2003, I think it was. I just remember it was either 2003 or 2004, roughly, because I know it was Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor were on fire, and this one kid had both. And so I remember that, and ran away with the league just with those two pitchers and a couple decent hitters. So, but yeah, so it's been a while since I got back into baseball, but we got invited because we won a football league, and the guy had an opening, so we took it. So. So far, I'd say it's a little underwhelming. Um, some of our draft picks didn't pan out. At least, yeah, I know it's somewhat still early, but we've had some injuries as well, so it's been challenging. It's a different type of league. You have to, it's weekly. You can't make any changes after the little time you get to do so.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we found that pitching is really dominant. That you have to have great pitching because you get great points for quality starts. Obviously for your win totals, the saves are huge. So it's it's interesting. It was a eye opener in some ways. So we're not the worst in the league or anything, but we're just trying to find our way.
Just like Tribe Called Quest back in the 90s.
There you go.
Had to help them find their way. No, and it's yeah, that's the downfall of points leagues, right? The downside of fantasy points league, even the head-to-head variety, is that it's all based on volume, and there's a little bit of unless you have a lot of restrictions, like there's an innings limit or there's a number of starts per week limit or things of that nature, it can get pretty wild. I mean, I've seen uh fantasy leaguers stack their pitching staff with waiver wire fodder. There's just poor quality pitchers just to get as many starts as possible. I think I've seen in my league where we start seven pitchers on a weekly basis, week to week league, a weekly league, I should say, head to head league, points league. Um, yeah, I've seen guys pack their rotation to have 12 starts in a given week, which yeah, you're they it's that's a lot of points waiting to happen because 12 starts, like you mentioned, quality starts, that's a bonus point. You get the pitching win, that's 10 points. You get these number of strikeouts. It all adds up. More strikeouts is the better. And you end up with like 12 starts per week. And that I always hated that strategy because that means I have to drop one of my pitchers that I drafted or a hitter that I drafted that I really like, but because I'm chasing these starts and this volume, I had to make that sacrifice, and you end up with a bad pitcher, but because he got two starts, now he that was the one fluky week where he gets like 30, 40, 50 points, and I hate it. I hate everything about it, but I keep coming back to it,
Right.
which is what I think that says more about me than it actually says about the state of the formatting of the league. But yeah, I kind of like the categories that league aspect because you do both the volume, but you also have to account because we use rate stats. You know, we have to account for quality as well. We just can't willy nilly pick a two-start pitcher just because they have two starts, even though he could be the most mediocre starting pitcher on the planet. Oh, but at least he has two starts. No, that's why I've been kind of switching over more towards the head-to-head category leagues because at least that's a little bit fair, and I do a little bit better in those than I do in points leagues just because of the whole the volume thing, like you mentioned. It's like the more starts, the better, but I don't know. It's just the idea of picking up a mediocre pitcher from a whatever team just because they get two starts on a given week is just too crazy for me.
I
But
mean, we've had to do that a couple times.
yeah,
It's pretty, it sucks, but I
yeah,
mean,
it's part of the
it's
strategy, unfortunately. Go ahead.
I mean, it's not all bad. Like, we do have, some good relievers, Foley in Detroit's been wonderful for us. That's a great pick by Joe. Joe did his homework on that. We kept Diaz, we inherited this team, so we had, players we could keep, and Diaz has been good for us.
I'm sorry, which Diaz is that? Edwin Diaz?
I'm sorry, the
I'll let
Mets closer, I apologize.
Edwin
Edwin Diaz.
Diaz. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then we also have Romano from Toronto who was injured and then he came back and he's been doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So, relievers have been good for us too. So it's just really like who you're facing each week. And I think I think it's a 14 team league, but you play seven opponents. So you don't just match one team, you play seven people.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So your record could, you can go 7-0 one week, or you can go 0-7, or you can, 4-3. So that's how so it's a little different. I never played like that before. Um,
Yeah, I've heard about those types of matchups where you face like two opponents on a given week, but never that high. I don't even think I've seen maybe two or three teams, but seven, that's pretty unique.
we also for like a waiver wire, we picked up Tyler Anderson from the Angels, and so he's been a quality waiver pickup. Not as much with wins and losses, but like, as far as good starts, he's had low earned runs. He's either 2-2 or 2-3 right now, so that's kind of helped. So that's where Joe's been mostly focusing um on that, is trying to get our pitching a little up to par. Um, as far as like our the guys we drafted, as far as hitters, Kwan is probably our most consistent hitter, the kid from Cleveland,
Yeah.
left fielder. He's been our best one. We've had some injuries. We lost the first baseman from Boston there, Tristan
Cassis. Cassis.
Cassis.
Yeah.
So and then obviously Acuna has not played like Acuna. He's not
Yeah.
himself. So it's still early. Maybe that all changes around. We're actually running three catchers in our lineups, just to kind of stay stay relevant. So all decent things that can change over time. So it's just
Uh,
funny how that works out.
Is it a two catch? No, it's not a two catcher league, is it? Your league?
No, it's not.
Okay.
But that's just where way things fell, and we just happened to get that scenario to go. So
Because you usually just need one catcher. I just want to make sure you guys aren't just stockpiling on catchers, just for the sake of doing so. Is it just because you're trying to play matchups? Is it because you're trying to just,
I
or
don't think it's
is it the waiver wire that thin with your team with your
well,
league?
it's a 14 team league. I mean, so
Yeah.
it does seem to be thin.
Yeah.
Um, no, it's only a one catcher league. So you have two utility spots, five outfielders,
Mm,
a middle infield, a corner infield, shortstop, third base, second base, first, and then a catcher. So
interesting.
I think it's just that we're just trying to play to what, you know, who's doing what the best.
All
Some of
right.
our players just are not playing as well so far. So
All right. So I've been keeping track of a list. Every time you mention a player, I just keep adding them to the list here. So I guess since you mentioned Tyler Anderson first, we can
yeah,
start with him. You're right. He does have a 2-3 win-loss record. I also added a bunch of guys who are on the list. You guys can't see it. The reason you guys can't see the list is because Well, you remember Jerry Krause, right? The Bulls general manager.
Yeah.
I'm pretty secretive when it comes to how I use Fangraphs. It might be to my own detriment. It may not be, but I figure I did all this work. I can't and to have the data, because you can customize your data in Fangraphs, and I work too damn hard to just like share it willy nilly, to the world like that. But at the same time, I know that it makes for bad podcasting. But at the same time, Fangraphs, like their interface is not the most friendliest to share online. So, but I assure you, I have a list of 22 starting pitchers right now, including guys who are probably available in 75% of CVS fantasy baseball leagues. So compare Tyler Anderson to the rest of his contemporaries that are more than likely unrostered at this point of the season.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Out of the 22 starting pitchers on the list, Tyler Anderson is 22nd in Skills Interactive ERA, with an ERA of 5.07. Uh, which Skills Interactive ERA, it accounts. It basically is asking how many strikeouts can a pitcher get? How many walks can they limit? Are they giving up any home runs? Um, and not only what would they do if there was nobody behind them fielding batted balls, but how would these pitchers do if the batted ball data was league average and not no skewed batted ball data? Like, for example, it's supposed to account for ballpark and era hitting era conditions as well. So
Gotcha.
it's supposed to make it as equal as possible. And when in a vacuum like that, Tyler Anderson is last on this list with a 5.07. Now his real numbers, he has a 6.23 strikeout per nine, a 3.86 walk per nine, which is pretty high. These walk per nine, and especially for a guy who is hitting a very low strikeout number. Um, so but I can see why you would want him. He also comes with a 1.05 whip and a 1.7 ERA. So there's a lot of pitchers who are getting up to great starts where their raw numbers or traditional numbers show that, oh yeah, these guys are good. But then the peripherals come in and says, well, the problem is he doesn't strike out enough guys. He walks too many guys. He might be giving a little bit too many home runs, and he's being helped by a 181 batting average on balls in play, which league average is about 300, because that's the way they had formatted that number for league average to be 300, on both sides, both for the hitters and the pitchers. Tyler Anderson's at 181, which tells me that he's had a lot of luck behind him and maybe some really good defensive plays behind him as well. I mean, got Mike Trout at center field. Um, and I forgot who the rest of the team was. I don't know. I don't know of any other outstanding gloves out there. I mean, I think Logan O'Hoppe, I guess you can consider him a solid glove behind the plate. He came in as a hot shot catching prospect, so that might be helping the Angels pitchers, because he's not Tyler Anderson is not the only one that people are talking about here. I mean, they're talking about this starting pitching as a unit looking better than it has ever looked before, and that was with Shohei Ohtani on the team. It was just the Shohei Ohtani show and then everybody else, five other pitchers, because they had to go six starting pitchers. So yeah, they got Zach Neto, the young shortstop. I don't know what his defensive numbers is, but you have to imagine that he came in with a lot of promise of high athleticism. So I have to assume that that is translating well to shortstop, where that athleticism to get to every single ball is needed. So I'm just estimating that that might be something that's helping Tyler Anderson survive. Other than that, he's also in. I mean, to his credit, he's inducing a lot of swings outside the strike zone, so he is getting opposing hitters to chase, right? So I don't know if we talked about it the last time you were there, but uh, to me that's kind of an important number. Is can you get guys to chase outside the strike zone
Right.
and make hitters swing at pitches that you don't want them to swing, but because this changeup looks like a fastball, I'm gonna hack at it because it looks like it's just there on a string for me, and then boom, it goes sideways the other way.
Well, that's beneficial because the likeliness of it turning into what the hitter wants is less, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you get someone to chase out of the zone, he's not hitting comfortably. So,
Exactly. And that's one of the things that when I was growing up in my fantasy baseball realm here throughout the 2000s, that used to be a thing. Like you don't want to um combine worlds, right? You can't combine the real scouting perspective of real baseball to use that to your fantasy baseball advantage because it's not relevant and it's not it has nothing to do with the game we're playing. We're trying to accumulate stats. We don't care how a pitcher is pitching or how their changeup changes at the last minute or how many revolutions. It used to not be a thing, and then vice versa. You don't use fantasy baseball to make evaluation remarks about real life baseball. The
Right.
worlds weren't meshing, and then somewhere along the line, I would say around when I started writing for Accent Sports back in 2013, maybe around the mid to the early to mid 2010s, that's when I started seeing a change where it was okay to kind of mesh both worlds. And once Statcast became uh, a, a baseball wide phenomenon in 2015 or so, it seems like that's more of what people are looking for to see if they can find fantasy baseball success based on real life measurements, which there's still a school of thought that suggests that you don't do that. But every podcast I listen to, you mentioned the CBS Sports Fantasy podcast. They use Statcast data all the time. They start talking about, well, his horizontal movement is 10 inches off the plate or something like that. That used to not be a typical thing that they talked about. Now they are because they're seeing that the whole industry is going that way and that there are benefits to using real life baseball evaluations that were only used among like executives and scouts and things of that nature, baseball personnel people in the front office. Now it's being used for fantasy baseball and to some extent some betting purposes as well. So, like I said, it used to be, wait, who cares about this about swinging tendencies? We only care about results, but I think it's important because, like we mentioned, Tyler Anderson's like strikeout numbers and the peripheral ERA numbers are bad, but there might be something here because he's getting guys to chase. Now, is that a fluky thing, or has there been a change in the way he pitches and the usages of his selection and things of that nature? But without going too much in depth on that, I'm just seeing a snapshot, and yeah, he is inducing a lot. A matter of fact, the 22 pitchers here, I would say that might be the highest point at the highest mark among all the pitchers that are listed here. And sure enough, Mitchell Parker is number one. Edward Cabrera from the Marlins is number two. Tyler Anderson is number three at getting guys to swing outside the strike zone. But Tyler Anderson, hell, even his contact rate is pretty low this year. Because you would think that Tyler Anderson, I'm sorry, I'm yammering on and on and on. I'm just trying to get people an idea as to how Tyler Anderson is doing. His contact rate is the sixth lowest on this list, which includes guys like Freddie Peralta, who's at 69.3% contact rate. Now, Harry, before I move on, is this? I know that you're just getting into baseball. I don't want to overwhelm you with all this stuff, but do you see how it might be beneficial to look at the pitchers' swinging and contact rate tendencies here?
Yeah, no, I do. Because not everyone's a strikeout king pitcher, and some pitchers are fly ball pitchers. And to be honest, I'd rather have a ball go low, and
Yeah.
make contact than go, than be a fly ball. Because if it carries the wrong way, it's going out. You know what I mean? Like I've always felt that a ground ball pitcher was always better in some aspects. That's just me. That was my. I rather prefer that.
By the way, I was looking up, but Zach Neto, the shortstop for the Angels, yeah, he's at a 5 defensive run save so far this season, which defensive runs is just a general defensive metric. It comes with its controversial, controversial arguments among people in both the baseball analytics world and non-baseball analytics world as well.
Right.
Where is it something that we can legitimately use, yes or no? And it's hard because defense is such a peculiar thing, right? We don't know. I mean, people still don't know if Derek Jeter was bad at shortstop, or if he benefit, or how much did he benefit greatly from having Alex Rodriguez at third base, things of that nature. But right now, 5 is pretty good for a guy who is coming into his second season, uh, maybe even his rookie season still technically from a playing time. Oh no, it's the second season. Never mind. But still, I mean, shortstop, he looks pretty good if it's a 5 DRS, defensive run save. But yeah, so Tyler Anderson, like I said, I don't know if that's a career high or not. Just upon quick glance, if we look at his stats, at his statistics from yesteryear, and I will share that screen just so people know what I'm looking at here. So I'm looking at the Tyler Anderson uh Fangraphs page. All right, there's Tyler Anderson, and we're just kind of well, you mentioned batted balls. How are his batted balls this year? Where the hell are they? There they are. Tyler Anderson, about yeah, he's still a fly ball pitcher. You know why he can benefit from being a fly ball pitcher there, Harry?
Why?
Because he pitches in the West Coast. Apparently, the West Coast is full of pitching friendly ballparks, and the Pacific Ocean air kind of just more often than not gets fly balls to die in the outfield. At least that's the theory. It's not a sabermetrics thing. It's not an old wives' tale. But there was actually a documentary done on the art of pitching. I think it's still on Netflix. And
When
shame
was
on
that documentary made?
about 5 years ago, and I cannot remember the name of it, unfortunately. But I
So,
think Bob Costas may have narrated that one. Go ahead.
so does that make Barry Bonds' claim stronger, or does it make the claim that he probably did performing enhancing
Oh,
drugs?
I mean, we talked about the video game numbers we just talked about swinging rates, right? We talked about swinging rates with Tyler Anderson. On the flip side, if you do it for hitters, you still want those hitters to not hack at every single pitch unless they're so damn good at making contact, then it's okay. Like Pablo Sandoval used to have very high swinging rates. Like
Right.
he just used to hack at everything, but he also made a lot of contact, so that's good. Then you get the Javier Baez's of the world who swing at every single pitch, and he is just easy to manipulate outside the strike zone. We've seen Javier Baez; he hacks at everything.
I think I remember, I think it was the first podcast we did. We talked about Barry's walk rate. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was ridiculous,
It was juggernaut. It was
oh
unbelievable.
yeah, and boy, it gets better here. So I'm mentioning two guys who swing at everything. One guy makes a lot of contact. Javier Baez, who swings at everything outside the strike zone, seemingly, does has a very poor contact rate. Okay, so bear that in mind that there's more than one way to kill a cow here in Major League Baseball. So you mentioned Barry Bonds, right?
Right.
So we're talking about two guys, Pablo Sandoval and Javier Baez, who I'm without even looking it up right now. I'm fairly confident that since 2010, both guys are flirting with a close to a 40% outside the strike zone swing rate, anywhere between 35% and 40%. I would assume that Pablo Sandoval and Javier Baez falls in that percentage, right? They're over 35%, which that's a lot. That's a pretty high number. And if it's going to be that high, you better be making contact. So with Pablo Sandoval, he can get away with it. Javier Baez cannot get away with it. Barry Bonds outside the strike zone between the 2002 and 2007 when this information was available back then, 11%.
Wow.
11%. He just was on another level that he refused to swing at pitches that were not in that sweet spot in the strike zone.
Yeah, his plate discipline was by far
Now, how much of
superior.
that was aided by umpiring and all things of that nature? Because umpires are humans too, and they look at a superstar like Barry Bonds. It's like basketball. The superstars get the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying it's completely, but I'm saying that you can start adding little nuggets and tidbits as to why he was so successful. The other reason, let's face it, the guy was gargantuan, like more gargantuan than usual. I think we even talked about how these guys' heads were overgrowing, and we started listing a list of players whose head just got really big during the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds is one of those guys. And not to say that his head is everything, but it proportionally wise, it extended from the top of his head all the way down to the soles of his feet. He was just bigger, like bigger than everybody else. In a world where everybody's using PEDs, his PED usage was better. He must have been on some more quality stuff. I have to assume. And how can you soil a guy like Barry? Well, screw him. That's why he doesn't deserve my benefit of the doubt. The reason that he's not in jail, they never serve any prison time for that, is because his buddy never ratted him out.
True.
The personal trainer, no, he stayed tight-lipped and took his punishment like a man for his friend Barry, and nobody was the wiser for it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You were gonna say something there?
No, no, no. So I was looking at the waiver wire of my league, and now I see why we took Anderson, because there's not much really out here that I'm, again, Joe's really more running the league than I am. I'm
Yeah,
kind of just support here, but the top like five pitchers that are available, I could be botching these names, so I apologize. Hunter Gaddis for Cleveland Guardians.
yeah, Hundred
Um,
Gaddis.
he's a minor league guy, but he got brought up, I guess, to pitch. So because it wasn't like it was against the Red Sox.
Okay.
Um, he's number one on the waiver wire. I know who Luke Weaver is,
Yeah,
but he's still playing the Grapefruit League because he's a Yankee. Um, so and then you have Bieber.
Bieber. He's out for the year.
Yeah, I just saw that. So it says eligible to return on June 1st, 60-day IL. But then it says it just went under Tommy John. So I don't know why he's still on here. But and then Tommy Henry from Arizona Diamondbacks.
Oh God.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So the waiver wire, it's there's not much out here. I mean, Alex Wood from the from the Oakland A's.
Yeah, I've always
Uh,
liked him, but he's just been underwhelming the last 2 or 3 years. If he couldn't find success in San Francisco, I don't think he's gonna find success in Oakland, no matter how big that ballpark
no,
is.
I get it. I'm just saying that, that's where we're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah, I'm just adding a little bit of insight on these guys because there's some guys that I like, but like Alex Wood I do like, but I would never recommend him at this point of his career. But well, now if you're asking, what about a deep league like ours where it's 14 teams, then I guess you could do worse. I guess you could try to manipulate the scheduling. If he's facing like the Colorado Rockies, I guess
right.
that'd be the time to start Alex Wood if you're desperate for pitching, which I still think picking up Alex Wood in a 14 team sounds a little desperate, but I mean, you guys know more. Now you're the expert. I've never played in a 14 team league. Well, I think the most I've ever played was a 20 team league, but not to brag, Harry, but my the name of baseball players that I would love to dig deep and find would probably survive a 14, 16, 18, 20 team league because that's just how my brain is built, right?
Right.
But I still cannot think uh thoughtfully as to how a 14 team might change how I look at the waiver wire. Like if Alex Wood is available, is he someone that's worth picking up? And that's a good question. Let's find out. But if Tyler Anderson, as you see in front of you, is a solid choice just because he has a low ERA and he's manipulating the ball out there and taking advantage of the thick air and the big gargantuan stadiums out on the West Coast, even though he's a fly ball pitcher. And I think that's another reason why his batting average and balls in play was so ridiculously low. Says, you know what happens when you hit a fly ball and it doesn't become a home run? What happens to those fly balls?
He gets caught.
It gets caught for, and what do they call it when they catch it in the outfield? What is that called? It's called an out. I was trying to be being snarky and smart there. It's an out. It's an automatic
Right.
out,
Yeah, it's an
right?
automatic out. Right.
It's not so yeah. So that therefore there's no batted ball. There's no ball in play.
Right.
It's out of it's automatic. It's an automatic out. That's why fly ball pitchers get a bad rap. But if they play in gargantuan cities like in San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, both the Dodgers and the Angels, uh, yeah, fly ball pitchers tend to flourish there because the ballparks are bigger, and fly balls that don't become home runs, they're automatic outs.
Why are those parks bigger? And did they talk about that in that documentary?
I believe so, but for general consensus, remember, in the East Coast, they built ballparks based on the city block. That's why you get those odd dimensions in Brooklyn and at the Polo Grounds, where down the line is like 256 feet, but then in deep center fields like 570 feet or some crap like
Right.
that. Yankee Stadium used in center field used to be known as Death Valley, and that's how I always say that if you want pitchers to go back to the glory years of baseball, um, where their arms aren't getting killed and things of that nature. That's the biggest complaint is that there's not enough pitching depth because all the good pitchers are getting hurt. Well, if you don't want pitchers to get hurt, build the stadiums like they were before with the gargantuan dimensions. Yeah, it's 256 down the line, but it's like what 470 at the power alleys, 560 at that deep center field. So guys like Whitey Ford and Vic Raschi of your New York Yankees back in the 50s and 60s were able to manipulate that aspect of it. And even when they were at their most tired, even when Whitey Ford was at his most hungover, all he had to do was just get a hitter to swing at a pitch that would force a fly out to center field. And that ends the inning. Like if you ever look at 50s and 60s pitchers, Harry, and you look at their walk rates and their strikeout rates, I mean, you have one guy on one side that had a 4 strikeout per 9 uh, benchmark, and that was matching his 4.00 walk per 9. So he was striking out as many guys as he was walking. That's Tyler Anderson. That's Tyler Anderson in a nutshell. The Tyler Anderson is yesteryear's. You know, I'm striking out every hitter for as many hitters that I walk. Or yeah, you know what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
Tyler Anderson would be that pitcher back then. The strikeouts are low, the walk rate's high, but it's okay because he's getting automatic outs. So there's more than one way to kill a cat in Major League Baseball. Like I said, skin a cat, I guess is the saying.
Yeah. Skin a cat. Yep.
Sorry about that. But but you got to realize that modern baseball, that's why pitchers are being told you need to strike out more. You need to add more revolutions per minute on your breaking pitches. You need to throw as close to 100 miles per hour as you can because these hitters will not get out of the ballpark. These stadiums are shorter than ever before, right? Even Yankee Stadium with the short porch, Baltimore Orioles Camden Yards for forever and a day was known as a hitter-friendly ballpark much to the detriment of the Orioles' team, you know. But this is what Major League Baseball is doing to combat the emphasis on home runs, right? Because sometime along mid 2010s, late 2010s, I don't know if you might have heard this about the so-called launch angle revolution.
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, so launch angle revolution, basically to combat these high velocities for starting pitchers and pitchers in general. Because I mean, you being in New York, you can understand that Clay Holmes throws really hard, but the Yankees bullpen is full of guys who throw really hard anyway. Like Ian Hamilton's the other guy we've talked about on this podcast. He with the 98 mile per hour average velocity on his fastball,
Right.
but he also throws his main pitch is a slider, a breaking pitch, a slider. So to be that effective, you can only imagine how many spins of that baseball he needs to have, how many revolutions per minute. So we're talking about baseball pitchers like they were cars at this point.
Wow.
So anyway, the point is that to combat these hitters who were already combating the high velocities, they couldn't keep up with the power. So sometime along the 2010s, major league teams decided, all right, well, we're just going to match power with power and see what happens. We're going to teach our hitters how to lift the ball in the air and see if they can go use that power swing at all times as opposed to just at certain times of the game, at certain times of the baseball counts. Let's see how far they can hit the ball and how many home runs they can hit. And that started the launch angle revolution. And you're seeing it now. People are complaining that pitchers can't stay healthy. Every other starting pitcher is getting Tommy John surgery or shoulder surgery, or they're on the IL to see if they can what is that word I'm looking for? Self mend like Wolverine of X-Men. So I mean,
Self-made.
yeah, you've seen it. You've seen it with your Yankees. Those guys are always hurt,
They are.
and nobody's more analytical than the New York Yankees at this point of baseball history. but they have a type. They got the guys that throw really hard. And for every Nestor Cortez, there's a Carlos Rodon that they really chased after to solidify their starting rotation. And Rodon comes with a lot of injury history. Clark Schmidt also came in as a high velocity pitcher who probably should be coming out of the bullpen, but because the Yankees have desperate need at starting pitching, they're putting him in the starting rotation because at least he has the stuff to maybe survive and strike out a lot of guys. So far, he's giving you mixed results, right? Clark Schmidt.
Yeah.
So anyway, Tyler Anderson, that's your guy. So I don't know when the bottom's gonna fall out for him. The luck factor, because it's pretty lucky. He's taking advantage of his surroundings though, so good for him. But you do gotta kind of ask yourself, like, how long can Tyler Anderson keep pitching like this? But it gets weird because you're in a 14 team, so you might have a little bit more of a leash, a looser leash on him
Right.
because of just who's out there. Let's see. According to that Skills Interactive ERA, of those 22 players, and I'm talking about guys who may be available in your league or any league whatsoever, uh, it's Ben Lively of the Cleveland Guardians. Although I'm not sure if he's gonna if he was just spot starting for Cleveland or if he actually has a rotation spot guarantee because of all the injuries that they're dealing with. So, but yeah, he has a 251 Skills Interactive ERA. Striking out 33% of hitters that he sees, which is crazy, even for a starting pitcher. Your guy, Freddie Peralta, also at 33% strikeout rate. So this Ben Lively guy's in good company. And yeah,
Ben Lively's already on someone's team.
yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, but he's pitching today against the Braves. So that's a tough matchup. So who knows if you and Joe would have gone that route. Um, but Ben Lively is an interesting choice to make. But unlike Tyler Anderson, he does not induce a lot of swings outside the strike zone. Ben Lively doesn't. 22%. Remember, Tyler Anderson was at, what was the number? 35% or something crazy like that. Yeah, 35% for
Yeah.
Tyler. And he is giving up a little bit more contact than Tyler Anderson. But, he's pitching a pretty darn good game right now, but it's only been 2 starts. So it's hard to tell. But if anybody knows how to build up a rotation from scratch, it'd be the Cleveland Guardians. And for their credit, they have a 19-8 record to show for it. They're first place in the AL Central. So maybe they can survive on that for a little bit. But yeah, you mentioned that Freddie Peralta was your best pitcher, right?
Uh, um, I don't know if Peralta's our best pitcher.
You mentioned him on the notes, so I'm wondering. Oh, I think you said that he was probably your best one.
One of the best draft picks because of the fact of his quality starts and he did have two tough games though. Let me pull him up.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll pull him up on my end too. We rarely talk about guys like Freddie Peralta because we just assume that those guys are given names that they should be like on a lot of fantasy baseball rosters. But it's always nice to talk about guys who are established because that way we get to
Well,
go
so
ahead.
he's had 5 starts. He's
Yes.
2-0.
Yep.
He's had 28 innings. He's given up 19 hits, 10 runs, 10 earned runs, nine walks, 38 strikeouts, 3.18 ERA, .988 WHIP. Um, what is BAA? Forgive me.
Batting average against.
It's .188.
Yep.
Quality starts 3. So
Yeah. He
yeah,
provides.
so he's been,
Go ahead.
huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, so he's been pretty consistent for us. Except for the two, bad starts he had. Everything else has been pretty good.
Is he one of those guys on your team? It's probably a dumb question, but I have to ask. Is he at a point where you just set him and forget it? He's good to go. You're not looking at matchups. You're just gonna start him every week until he doesn't
There
pitch.
there was
Go.
a point where we discussed maybe taking him out because he had those two bad outings, but
Mm.
then we just decided that he's so consistent that yeah, we just leave him in. Like unless there's a real bad matchup or something, or there's a favorable matchup somewhere else, he's pretty much in. Like yeah, so he's pretty much just set him and forget him.
So
The
who?
rest, I mean, I'd say he's a set him and forget him. Foley from Detroit,
Yeah.
Edwin Diaz, and then Romano. are the ones that are always in the lineup no matter what.
Yeah,
The three closers and then him. And then, our other pitching, we have Maeda from Detroit.
yeah, my
He's
Kenta Maeda.
yeah, I mean he's been rocky. Then we got is it Talan?
Jameson
Uh
Tyone.
yeah, him. So he has bounced back from injury and he actually did pretty well for us at one point. I think he's 2-0 at this point. Um so two games, 2 wins, 10.2 innings, 10 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, ERA is 1.69, whips 1.125. And then yeah, what's the BAA again? Forgive me, I know I'm
Batting
terrible.
average against. Go ahead. Batting
Okay,
average
batting average
against.
against is 0.244. So, but he didn't get any quality starts. So he got the wins, but he didn't get the quality start.
Yeah,
Um, which is, it is what it is, right? You
yeah,
can't get everything. So between him and then the other pitcher from Chicago, Wicks.
yeah. Jordan Wicks.
Yeah. So but he's been day to day, I guess, and it's eligible to return Friday. But so he's had 5 starts, 1 win, 2 losses, 23 innings, 26 hits, 15 runs, 12 earned runs, 9 walks, 28 strikeouts, 4.7 ERA, 1.52 whip, and then the batters against is 0.268 with only one quality start. So, but it's tough. We're waiting for we did draft Garrett from Miami.
Braxton
So
Garrett.
so waiting for him to get back from injury.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. We do have the starting pitcher Carrasco from Cleveland.
Yeah, Carlos Carrasco.
Yeah, Carlos Carrasco. No, but even though Cleveland's doing great, he's 1-2. 5 starts, 23 innings, 25 hits, 12 runs, 12 earned runs, 13 walks, 20 strikeouts, 4.63 ERA, 1.629 whip, and then 0.275 against batters against. So no quality start points. So our pitching is a little lackluster.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I-
I invested high on starting pitching for all the reasons that you and I talked about the last time you were here. Is that starting pitching is going to be bad, so I really did reach in all three of my leagues for starting pitching. And even though I invested on starting pitchers early and often, it seemed like I still don't have the results. I'm starting to finally see some these guys start pitching up to their potential, but it's been coming
right,
in slowly but surely. Like Luis Castillo got out to a really awful start. Like, oh boy, he had 20, what was it, 2019, 2018, when Luis Castillo was just awful for the Cincinnati Reds. And we thought, man, this guy wasn't the ace that we thought he was. But as the season went on, he started getting better.
right.
And then he got traded to Seattle, and he really flourished in Seattle to the point that he got a nice little long-term deal for himself with the Mariners. But getting back to your guy, Freddie, this guy sounds like it's your race, Freddie Peralta of the Milwaukee Brewers. Yeah, high strikeouts, excellent control of the 2.86 walk per nine. His thing has always been, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy enough? And he started out as a bullpen guy too, because that's where the Brewers needed him. But in 2021, they made him into a starting pitcher, and he's been kind of a lot of growing pains, but a lot of upside potential with him. But the peripherals love him. They think he's a real deal. You mentioned the whip at 0.99. That's the walks plus hits per innings pitch. So he doesn't give up any walks. He doesn't give up any hits. He 40% hard hit rate, little bit alarming, but for a guy who throws this hard, I will live with that. The 12.3% barrel rate is a career high, so that's a little concerning, but it's still only an exit velocity of 87.2 miles per hour, which I think that sounds pretty low. He's keeping hitters off balance and in check. But he's both a ground. There's pretty much a ground ball and fly ball pit. There's no dominant batted ball here. It's about as equal, and it's been like that for most of his career. He's
Right.
actually been dropping those fly balls a lot lately, and yeah, so at least he's working on that. But
I mean,
go ahead.
it's tough when you take on a team that I'm not saying didn't have decent players, but the pitching wasn't as good as the hitters were. So like, so we took over a team that, it's a dynasty league
Yeah.
or keepers league. I think it's more of a keepers league.
Yeah.
And thankfully we get to reset next year, except for your minor leaguers.
Yeah.
You can keep, if they stay in the minors, you get to keep them the entire time. So we get to bring back those minor leaguers next year. Besides that, everything goes back and you start fresh, thankfully. But it's just the way we landed. Being the first pick really stunk. Did not like
Yeah.
being the first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
I hated it, and we lost out on a lot. We got sniped a lot.
Yeah. I'm
So it
sorry.
was
Did
tough.
you draft Freddie Peralta, or was he inherited by you?
No, we drafted Freddie Peralta.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, so
Yeah.
far it looks like it was a good choice. I'm just looking at some of his other figures. Like his stack has his fastball slider, changeup kind of guy with the occasional curveball, which he's kind of dropping in favor for that slider. And then, of course, as you know, the most important thing about these players is how are the swinging and their contact rates. And yeah, a little bit of inducement on the outside of the strike zone, but it's still I'm kind of surprised that it's that low. He actually doesn't induce a lot of swings overall, only at 43.8%. But why doesn't he induce a lot of swings? Because it sounds like hitters can't keep up with his pitches. Only 69.3% contact rate. It's just that's insane. That's ace material right there, bro. It's really good. I like this. I like this a lot.
And wasn't he the number two guy before the guy got traded? What was the guy's name that got traded from Milwaukee?
Well, they had Brendan Woodruff, but he's hurt, and then Corbin Burns, who got traded,
Right.
and
So
yeah,
Peralta kind of inherited being the ace of that staff.
yeah, and kind of similar upbringing too to Corbin Burns, who was brought in as a high velocity relief pitcher and eventually worked his way to becoming one of the best starting pitchers in all of baseball. Freddie Peralta kind of had a similar road to becoming this starting quasi ace pitching material. Actually, the default ace of that Milwaukee Brewers, but maybe it's not so much the fault because he looks pretty good so far. Now, I cannot explain why he doesn't induce a lot of swings. This and despite the fact that he doesn't really give up a lot of contact, so he's not a contact pitcher. But this must mean that he's just pinning corners out there. He only throws 38.4% of his pitches inside the strike zone. As you've seen in the past, he's kind of lived for the most part within the strike zone. But the last 3 years, as he's ascended into an ace type material type of starting pitcher, that usage inside the strike zone has dipped lower. And with his velocity and the fact that he's able to come in with a nasty slider and also keep hitters off balance with a occasional changeup, I can see how hitters can have fits. And again, I'm doing this just to compare a guy like Tyler Anderson, who's probably at the bottom of your totem pole as your pitcher goes, versus a guy who is the established starting ace pitcher in Freddie Peralta. We rarely get, like I said, on this podcast, we rarely talk about guys who are good. So it's kind of a fresh air. Now he did struggle against the Pirates, but I guess everybody struggles against the Pirates now, which is kind of a weird thing to be saying out loud. But
It
yeah,
is weird.
but he also on April 12th, I see here on his game, like Freddie Peralta threw a dandy of a ball game against the Baltimore Orioles, striking out 11 guys, only giving up one earned, and that's a really good Orioles team as well. Who's the other pitcher you were mentioning there? Give me a pitcher want me to we should take a look at right now.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm
Go
not
ahead.
prepared.
It could be on your team or on any team or on the waiver wire.
No, we'll
Yeah,
we'll stick to my team.
yeah. Well, Harry gets that
You want a
sorted.
starting you want a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher?
Let's do a starting relief pitcher if you want. You want to talk about Jason Foley then?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Because
let's talk about Jason Foley because he's definitely a surprise.
yeah, because it was Alex Lang who was supposed to be the closer for your Detroit Tigers. And I remember being on this podcast saying over and over again, do not get Alex Lang. Fool's gold. Don't get him. If he's available late, it's not worth it. But he was still listed as the closer pretty deep into spring training among all fantasy publications, saying that he's the closer to get in Detroit because he's going to get the first crack at it. But this whole time, this guy named Jason Foley, they started, little rumors and rumblings about him talking about, he's pitching about 100 miles per hour right now. Like, ooh, 100 miles per hour. Well, your ears kind of perk up, right? That's a lot. As you see, he was coming up as a afterthought of a prospect for the Tigers. 60-60 fastball, 45-45 slider. Has to work on his command, but he must have made it work because right now he has 8 saves so far in this young season. So 8 saves. We got 6 months in baseball. How would you like to have a guy like Jason Foley and his 50 saves if he's going at this
Crazy.
rate? Yeah,
Yeah,
eight
no, it's
times.
crazy.
Yeah, 8 times 6 is 48. Give him an extra 2 saves. That's 50 saves in one season. And for the Detroit Tigers, who are if they're gonna win games, it's gonna be these tight, close knitted games. Yeah, he's gonna be used up a lot. Now the strikeout numbers are a little underwhelming here, but they are improving every season. It looks like, as you can see, as he starts to improve his repertoire. And he wouldn't be the closer if the Tigers didn't trust him. Walk rate's pretty high as well, but we've seen guys like Aroldis Chapman who throw really hard also post high walk per 9 innings.
That's
So
exactly when you said 100 miles an hour, the first person I thought of was Aroldis Chapman.
yeah, yeah, and well, we got to be careful because now that everybody throws 100 miles an hour, it seems like out of the bullpen, we can't all be compared to Aroldis Chapman. But yeah, I'll admit though, aside the strikeout numbers, this guy does pretty much profile like an Aroldis Chapman. Well, we'll see. Does he come with a slider? Because those were Chapman's 2 pitches, the blazing fastball and the slider. 98 mile per hour on average fastball velocity. Like we talked about, velocity is king in Major League Baseball, and Foley is one of those guys. Peripherals love him. At least it's all under 4, that those peripheral ERAs. And I know it's higher than the 150 that he's posting, but if reality ever hits this guy, it's not that big of a downfall for him. Where's his whip? Yeah, 1.17, probably because he walks too many guys, but that's okay. We'll live with that, Harry. We honestly will. How's the StatCast numbers? Yeah, no barrels against them. Guys can't keep up. They don't know what he's throwing or how he's throwing it, or I don't know if it's because people are still trying to get used to this new Jason Foley that has come into the season. But yeah, big ground ball pitcher for you, man. How tall is he? 6'4", 215, big ground ball pitcher. So that helps a lot too. So let's get to the good stuff though. What is he throwing out there? So he's ditched the fastball. Oh, it's a sinker. That explains it. It's a sinking fastball, which means that, yeah, of course he's gonna give you a high ground ball rate.
Right.
And when, yeah, so kind of like you mentioned, I don't know if Aroldis Chapman had a sinker. I think his was just a straight 4-seam fastball, but he always threw a slider with very high usage. And Jason Foley is definitely doing the same thing. And there it is, 97.4 miles an hour is his average on the sinker, 98 on the 4-seamer. So yeah, he can throw it up there, and it's an improving velocity as well. As you can see, the sinker was at 95.7 miles per hour when he was a rookie in 2021, or when he got first called up in 2021. 95.7. Now it's up to 97.4 miles an hour on that sinker fastball. So that, but yeah, we've seen him throw as high as 100, and that's what kind of got my attention of him. And now he's closing for your Tigers. But again, one of these guys that doesn't induce a lot of swings, so that's kind of a red flag. Contact rate's pretty high, but we talked about it. That's what he wants anyway. He wants those high contact rates because he's making hitters burrow it into the ground. And look, a 50.3% zone percentage. Again, that's how many pitches does he throw inside the strike zone? 50% of the time. We saw the other Peralta at 38%. This guy is so confident in his fastball. Like, all right, try to hit it. Hell, I want you to hit it, but you're gonna hit it to my shortstop, my second baseman, my third baseman weekly,
Crazy.
if I may add. And that's what you got in your hands. You got a hard throwing ground ball pitcher closing out games for a young up and coming Tigers team who desperately need him to win them every single game in the ninth inning, because every game's going to be like 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, close. 50 saves is possible. I can see 50 saves from this guy. Felipe, that's hyperbole. Felipe, you're over exaggerating, and you shouldn't be taking the pace numbers too seriously. But I'm
I don't
saying,
know. This guy's
if
different.
wait until he's able to get that strikeout number higher than what he's showing. The better. Now that I think about it, the better comp. Although this guy gives up more walks, but Mark Melancon used to do the same thing. Although he threw more of a cutting
Right.
fastball. Mark Melanson did of your Pirates and Braves and all those other teams, but mostly from the Pirates.
I know about the cutter.
Oh, of course you know about the cutter.
I know
But
about the cutter.
Melanson lived off just getting guys to throw to hit into ground balls very frustratingly, and he just rack up saves in that manner despite the low strikeout numbers. Maybe Jason Foley's doing the exact same thing, except that his fastball sinking is a sinking fastball, not a cutter, but he throws a lot harder than Melanson could ever think about. So yeah, that's why he's definitely doing better than Alex Lang. I never liked Alex Lang. I've always liked this Jason Foley. As soon as I found out he was throwing up to 100 miles an hour, I was sold. Unfortunately, I could only get him in one league, but yeah, that's a good pickup there. Did you draft him or did you pick him up? I forgot.
No, we drafted him. Joe scouted him, and Joe did his homework and read a rumor somewhere that the Tigers were high on him
Yeah.
coming late out of spring. So we took him,
So
and
go ahead.
no, so we took him, and we were throwing him in the lineup just as a regular, reliever, like, for like holds, and because you get points for holds and
Yeah.
all that. So we just wanted to have some diversity since we were especially having trouble getting starting pitching.
Hmm.
So we picked him up with the hopes that he would eventually become the closer, but it worked out day one. So that's definitely our best, I would say our best, you know, pick for sure is Foley.
Yeah, that's why I didn't understand this year. Like a lot of the fantasy baseball podcasts kept talking about, oh, you got to pay that premium for relief pitchers this year for closers because once the top eight, top 10 are gone, it gets super murky. And all I saw was opportunity for some guys who did deserve it. I was on the let's don't draft the closer from the Nationals, especially if you're in holds leagues. Do not go after Kyle Finnegan. Instead, wait a little bit longer and get Hunter Harvey, the seventh and eighth inning guy,
Right.
because I think he will eventually become the closer because he throws really hard and strikes out at a higher rate than Kyle Finnegan. I just think he's much better than Kyle Finnegan. I never liked Kyle Finnegan. But Hunter Harvey is the guy. And if anything, if you're in a holds league, he's going to get you holds because he's going to be asked to preserve leads in the seventh and eighth inning before they go to Kyle Finnegan. And you know what? I'm kind of doubting myself at this point, Harry. I'm wondering, is that the guy's name for the Washington Nationals, Kyle Finnegan? I'm gonna just double check really
I thought
quick.
it was.
I thought it was too, but now I'm just I'm just full of constantly questioning myself. Yeah, there he is, Kyle Finnegan and Hunter Harvey. Yeah, he did take the loss on Tuesday, but he did get the hold on Friday before leaving the door open for Kyle Finnegan to get the save on Friday there. So yeah, so the examples like that, right? And I always still believe that if you can get away with it, maybe just hold off on if you can't get those top eight, top 10 relief pitchers, maybe you want to hold off because as the season progresses, there's going to be a clear picture as to what these closing situations look like. Adam
Right.
Lang was ranked like in after the top 15, maybe around the top 20, and and the guy came with a lot of red flags. I on this podcast, I urge people do not get Alex Lang. It's not worth it. Just I would and I'm just meanwhile holding off and looking to see what the Tiger situation is, and then lo and behold, here comes Jason Foley. Don't tell me you still can't get closers off waiver wire. Mason Miller was available in my ESPN league, and I looked around like, you guys are gonna let me just stroll in and get Mason Miller, another guy who throws with 100 miles per hour? Or I mean, you saw
Wow.
him against the Yankees.
I did.
He once he was in, that's it. The Yankees had no answers for that guy. He was striking out everybody in sight. Him with the 100-mile-per-hour fastball and the 90-mile-per-hour slider. You saw firsthand, and in my ESPN league, there he was, just for me to take. Like I was, you ever watch Colors, the movie
No.
Colors with Robert Duvall? There's a story about it's basically a story about slow and steady winning the race, and it ends like, why don't we just instead of running down the hill to get the bulls? It's a story about bulls, so the dad bull and son bull. Instead of running down and see how many female cows we can get, let's just stroll and walk down the hill and get all of the cows that we can get together, son. Which now that I say it out loud, it's not a pretty good family friendly analogy. But why? reach for some of these closers when there could be teams that are not going to win by many blowouts. They're going to win tightly, closely won the games that they might be available on waiver wire as opposed to wasting a draft pick on these guys.
Mason Miller's stats are unreal.
Oh yeah, man, I love them.
10 games. He has a 0-0 record, 1.46 ERA in 12.1 innings, but he's 25 strikeouts and a .89 whip. Like, wow.
Oh, it's insane.
It's
It's
insane.
it's absolutely insane, and he should not be available anymore. You guys, you if you're looking for a guy like that, the time to pounce on him was like weeks ago. Like that was the time to do it. So I got him in 2 of my leagues, but not the points league for whatever reason. But yeah, if like I mentioned this the last week, like if you're in desperate need of a closer, James McArthur's still out there. It looks like he's still the ninth inning guy for your Kansas City Royals until further notice. But he's been pitching pretty well lately, all things considered. Um, if you want, we could do a matchup between your guy Jason Foley and James McArthur of the Royals, both playing the same division. But there he is, James McArthur, ninth inning guy, even got back-to-back saves earlier this week on Tuesday and Wednesday. So the Royals are not afraid to use him. All right. So he has a higher strike rate than Foley. McArthur does, much
Right.
lower walk rate than Foley. Uh, but Foley has a lower whip, I should say. The peripherals, you give the edge to McArthur, despite the fact that Foley has a 1.50 real life ERA. McArthur at 284 is a lot worse, but the peripherals say no, he's better than that, is what the peripherals are basically saying there. That McArthur is much better than what his ERA has shown. McArthur does induce more swings outside the strike zone, much less contact rate, because we talked about Jason Foley wants those ground balls, whereas McArthur is trying to blow everybody away. But the thing about McArthur is he doesn't come packed with a fastball like that. Like Foley's fastball and sinker is much higher velocity wise than McArthur, but McArthur is able to still post a lot of strikeouts. I assume that his secondary and tertiary pitches are much better as well. But yeah, that's if all else fails, McArthur should still be owning about 58. Last I checked, 58% of CBS leagues. I thought definitely less than 75%. So there's a coin flip of a chance that you might still find him out there on the waiver wire. So there's options. You got to really dig deep and look for them. Right, Harry. That's anything. You got to just let me ask you this: well, I'll just list the guys who are also available. Kirby Yates, he has 4 saves so far this season. Joel Payams, for some reason, the Brewers keep using him in late inning situations. I'm not even sure if he's a closer anymore, but he has 4 saves and 3 holds already in 2024. You mentioned Edwin Diaz, but he's on your team though, so I think he's with a 34.3% strikeout rate. I think Edwin Diaz is good. He's a good pitcher. No worries about him. Jason Adam, 7 holds, though his strikeout rate has dropped since last year. It looks like so. I actually gave up on him in one of my leagues. You mentioned Hector Neris from the Cubs. It looks like he might become the closer now for that team, as Advert Alzolay cannot be trusted.
That's
Uh,
true. That's
and
what we're seeing.
and he's on your team, right, Hector
Yep.
Neris?
Yep.
Oh, and so is Jordan Romano. With he just came back, but he has 3 saves already. But just be careful, as he has a 5.94 field independent pitching, which if you remember what FIP was, that's basically strikeouts, walks, home runs allowed.
Yeah, we have him on the trading block while we can try to get something for him now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't want to. And there's Hector Neris taking over the closer's role, and with the Cubs already getting back-to-back saves on Wednesday and Thursday. So, but yeah, Romano, you want to make sure that you don't want to sell too low, because people are gonna look at that and say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna try to get Romano on the cheap," but he's coming back from injury. I still think that when he's healthy and everything's going his way, he's an elite closer. So I wouldn't settle. I wouldn't just settle for the first trade that comes in. I know the 3.86 ERA is good. The 107 WHIP looks good, but yeah, the thing The strikeout rate is at 15%, which is kind of alarming. But again, he's coming back from injury, and he's probably just being thrown into the wolves, saying, "Hey, we need you right now. The Blue Jays need you right now. So figure it out as you go and throughout the season." So yeah, so some person might come up to you and say, "Hey, we'll give you this mediocre outfielder for your closer." Like, no, it's Jordan Romano. We can get better than that. So people are gonna try to lowball you. So just be careful with that. But yeah, slim pickings for like closers and for replacement closers, but it's not out of the realm of possibility to get that next closer. And I still think, Harry, that the closer's role is pretty volatile as the seasons go on. You mentioned Stephen Kwan, right, as one of your favorite picks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess what have you noticed about Stephen Kwan this year? Um, as a guy, as a fantasy leaguer who has him on his team,
He's just been our most consistent player, it seems.
the most consistent hitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he only has 3 home runs, only 8 RBI, and only 3 stolen bases. But you don't get Stephen Kwan for that type of counting stat production. You get Stephen Kwan because he hits for a high batting average because he
Right.
has ridiculously high contact rates.
He's batting 345.
It's yeah, and he's getting on base 378.
Yep.
So it's matching now. Is that because of a high BABIP? Yes, it is, but still, if anyone's gonna generate a high batting average on balls in play, it'd be Stephen Kwan. He doesn't strike out many times. He doesn't know the meaning of the word strikeout. And if he's gonna be producing like that, I mean that's a win, and that's a big win for you guys. But it remains to be seen. Like, which Stephen Kwan do we have here? Do
I
we
mean,
have this? Go ahead.
the reason why he looks so good is because some of our other players are really playing, underwhelming. Corbin Carroll is batting, I think, 195,
Yeah, and unfortunately, you can't give up on him. Wait, you
196.
got
No, you can't. No, you can't. But he's batting 196. You know, let's see.
you got Carroll and Acuna.
Carroll and Acuna and Kyle Tucker.
Oh my goodness,
Well, no, so some were keepers. So Tucker,
no,
Corbin.
it's pretty
You
good
have,
though. It's pretty good.
yeah, but they're just playing. I mean, Kyle Tucker's got 6 home runs, 18 RBIs. Batting 291, not terrible, but so it's like, we're just underperforming. That's all. It's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
having the same issues on my.
Tristan from Boston got hurt, so
Yeah,
he's out for like a month. So
yeah.
that's kind of tough. Marcus Simeon from the Rangers, batting average 261 right now.
Hmm.
I mean, he does have 5 home runs, but
Yeah, I'm happy with him in my league. So, yeah, it's one of those guys you just kind of like Jose Ramirez in my baseball life league. He's posting like really ugly numbers right now. But the reason you don't even think about benching him is because he can explode. Like he had a grand slam on Friday, or was it Thursday or Friday? I think it was Thursday.
right.
He had a big, ginormous grand slam. So that's why you don't bench a guy like Jose Ramirez because he has that capability to do
I mean,
so.
you
I
you warned us about Suarez, well, after I showed you, and luckily, strikeouts don't they don't count strikeouts in this league, thank God.
yeah.
Um, but he has been terrible. I mean, he's
Oh,
batting 228.
oh, I warned you guys about him. I warned not
Did
you, the general you, not just you, but the general you. And I know that my buddy Sean and we got into a very heated argument about him, about Eugenio Suarez, because I don't think much about him. Like, he had those 2 really good years in Cincinnati. Well, I know he had one year where he had 50 home runs, but we're finding out that was because the ball was doctored by Major League Baseball and everybody was hitting a lot of home runs. Uh,
it's I
to
mean,
his, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, he did go to a very not so very hitter friendly ballpark in Seattle. But the power was still there, but so are the strikeouts, and the strikeouts will affect your batting average. Go ahead.
No, right. And then we have Dansby Swanson, and he's not playing so great. So we're underwhelming at
Yeah.
like almost every position. So it's just unfortunate luck. It's not like we did anything wrong per se. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
I think
unfortunate luck, and Stephen Kwan is your lucky charm right here because he's
for
just rolling
now,
along. Yeah, but
for
like, go ahead.
I mean, let's see here, like I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Is it Kevon Biggio?
Oh, Kevon Vizio, yeah.
Yeah, he came out at first couple of games, playing very well. So,
Mhm.
so we didn't have him in the lineup yet because we were healthy. Now we're forced to play him. He's batting 242. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not a believer in Kevon Vizio. I like the versatility because he could play
yeah, the
everywhere.
versatility is what we liked, but yeah, he's not.
He's just not gonna produce for you.
How about the kid in Cleveland? Let's look at the kid in Cleveland.
Which
Is
one?
it Brian
Brian Rocio. I
Rocio?
call him
Rocio?
Rocio. But
Yeah,
really quick,
Rocio.
before we get to Rocio, let's see. Kevon Vizio is in a platoon, left-handed on the platoon set with looks like David Schneider and Ernie Clement,
Yep.
maybe. So he's not gonna play every day.
Right.
But and he's gonna sit against left-handed pitchers.
Right.
So you got to play the matchups. And you're in a
But
weekly league. You got to basically look at, okay, who is he playing this week, and it should tell you because you're on Fantrax. It should tell you what pitchers are he's gonna be seeing. And yeah, this is not a good
maybe on the
example.
computer. I don't know if it does it on the app on the phone.
It
I gotta
does.
get
It does. Trust me, it does. I love their app, and that's one of the things you can look at is that. So let's go on the Fantrax page, just out of curiosity. Although, I don't think I've ever done it this way. Oh wait, so you go to players on Fantrax, go to players, and type in his name, Biggio. Let's see what happens. You can see my screen, right?
he's what?
You can see my screen. I'm on the
Yeah, yeah, I
Kavan.
can see your screen. Yep.
Let's make it
Yep.
a little bit bigger here.
I
So
see it.
let's. So it's only doing the first. Because I do semi-weekly. So yeah, if you just hover over the player, his opponent, he gets the Royals against Alec Marsh, who's been doing pretty well, but it's not like he's insurmountable. Cole Reagans, I believe he's left-handed. Let's find out. A little pop-up window shows up. You go to more information. Yep, he throws left-handed, so that's a red flag. And then he's gonna face on Wednesday Seth Lugo, who's been also pitching well, but I don't. It's not like the Blue Jays can't get to the guy. And Seth Lugo is basically pitching like, oh, who's the guy that we just talked about? Oh shoot, not Tyler Anderson. Who's the other pitcher?
Who, Freddie Peralta?
No, after him, did we talk about some? Oh, we talked about Jason Foley. Never mind. I could have sworn there was another guy. Let me double check. This is killing me. But he's facing the Nationals, which on Friday through Sunday of next week, which
We're
that
talking
should
about
be
Kyle Finnegan.
no that yeah we did, but that he's not on your team now, is he?
No, he's not on my team. No.
Yeah. Jameson Taillon. No, I mean we did talk about him, but I don't think we. Anyway, it's fine. So it's Patrick Corbin. He's left-handed, but he's still an easy target. But I think they're gonna sit him against Corbin, which I think that would be the guy to face. Jake Irvin, I always forget if he's right-handed or left-handed. I don't like him, but I think he's having a pretty good year. He's right-handed, but as you see just by hovering over his name, he's doing decent, all things considered, with a 4.55 ERA, a 1.30 WHIP, which that's pretty good for a fourth or fifth starting pitcher. And then Mackenzie Gore, which again, I always forget if he's left-handed or right-handed. So that's why we have these tools. He's left-handed. So I counted about three left-handed hitters next week for Kevon Biggio. I think unless you don't have anyone else, that's a prime candidate to bench next week for your
No, we're
team.
probably benching him next week.
Yeah. So going back to the Stephen Kwan page, just slaps everything, hits with sprays the ball all over the field, Harry. When I see 30% for the pull in the center and the opposite percentages, when they're all in 30%, that just tells me that this is a guy that sprays the ball everywhere. And he's always trying to hit the ball to left field because his opposite hit rate is 37%. So variety, and you can make heads or tails on this guy, and I think that is accounting for a lot of the luck that he's having. But some hitters are just good at generating that kind of luck. But other than that, he's not gonna wow you with his Statcast numbers. I think I just saw that he has like 84 mile per hour exit velocity, which is ridiculously low. And but that's not his game. His game is patience, putting lots of contact on pitches and hitting them where they ain't, finding those gaps in the infield and in the outfield as well. That's Stephen Kwan's game. You know what you're getting from him. 93% contact rate, which is just people talk about Luis Arias or the Marlins having high contact. This guy should not be slept on in regards to high contact. And if he can produce, that's even better for everybody involved. So Stephen Kwan, that's who the guy is. You mentioned Rochio.
Now, Rocho's numbers are not great.
Yeah, but interesting to talk about Brian Rochio because he does come with a lot of high prospect pedigree. 23-year-old middle infielder. I think at one point he was considered a second baseman, but now he's listed at shortstop. And I think that's where he's been starting with the Guardians lately, is at shortstop. Uh, let's look at his minor league numbers because, yeah, so he's never posted high exit velocity, even at AAA, 86.7 miles per hour. That's pretty low, but he's a high contact guy because that's what the Guardians love. Like if you do this long enough, Harry, you'll realize that teams have certain things that they like from their prospects.
Right.
Seattle, like the Mariners, for example, their pitchers, they need to have high command, high fastball velocities, but they need to show that they can command it. Like I don't care, like it's the whole idea. I don't care if you could throw 98. Can you paint corners and you know throw strikes is what matters to that team. Not that it doesn't matter for other teams, but Mariners in particular. And also apparently their big thing with in Seattle right now is that they want every one of their pitchers to throw what they call a sweeper breaking curve, which I guess it's like kind of looks like a slider, kind of looks like a curveball, but then it makes me wonder why not just isn't that just a slurve, SLURVE, this half slider, half curveball? But anyway, they insist that it's different.
Maybe it's a Seattle thing. Swerve, slurve. No,
Swerve
no.
Strickland, swerve sweeping Strickland, slurving sweeping. Uh, yeah. So just like Steven Kwan, I mean, these guys are built kind of similar. Doesn't strike out. I mean, 18.6% is a pretty high mark, but in today's game, if it's below 20, you'll live with it. And he's walking almost as much as he's striking out. How does that calculate to that walk per strikeout ratio? 0.44 for a rookie. That's not too bad. He's learning on the job, but yeah, his numbers are bad. But let's find out why his numbers are bad. The going behind the numbers here, so to speak. Statcast 87 miles per hour exit velocity, so 3.2% barrel rate. So again, for a guy like him, we don't expect this to be a very dangerous, hard hitting shortstop, but we are looking to see ground ball. He's a ground ball hitter. It's a lot of ground balls. And for a lot of pitchers, that's music to their ears because if they have good defense behind them, those shortstops and second basemen are going to suck up every ball they can get. For a guy who's a contact hitter, he pulls the ball a lot. So this is the opposite of Stephen Kwan, complete opposite. So why is a contact guy trying to pull every pitch when he clearly doesn't have that kind of power? What was his metrics here? Yeah, high hit tool, modest power, if any, modest pop. I don't think you would want to call it power, maybe pop. Average speed, but still a 50 future value. So he does come with that high prospect pedigree, mostly because he has shown a great hit tool. But the hit tool isn't translating too much. That's the dangers. I know my buddy Sean used to love these guys who show high hit tools in the minors. I know you're pretty new to this, Harry, but if you're looking at minor league prospects in your head, what do you envision as a guy that you would like to have on your fantasy team? Would you want a guy with a high hit tool, but not much of anything else because you want that steadiness? Or do you just go with the high upside guy? Maybe the guy has a horrible hit tool, but the power and speed numbers are through the roof and the upside's there, but he strikes out way too much, or he goes into really bad slumps, which affect his batting average. Which pitcher would you want to go? Steady or high upside?
Probably high upside.
Yeah,
That's just
right.
kind of the guy I am.
Yeah, it's the difference between Brian Rochio and O'Neill Cruz, for example, or Ellie De La
Right.
Cruz, or yeah, not to say that these refined hitters don't amount to anything, but when that upset isn't reached, you just get a very solid but unspectacular player. They all don't turn out to be like Stephen Kwan, for example, who can generate that kind of, or Luis Arias. They don't turn into all of them turn into Luis Arias. Anyway, what was I looking at? Oh yeah, the plate discipline. I mean, we know what we're gonna get from here. I mean, 79.6% contact rate, which is pretty low for a guy like him, but all things considered, as he's struggling, he is hitting for a lot of contact, but it just sounds like a guy who's hitting them weakly up the middle to either shortstop or even third base, and it's just nothing but ground balls. He is chasing the ball a lot, and mostly because pitchers are not afraid of him. here, hit this. We dare you to. And he does at a 51.5% overall swing rate. And they just weak grounders. Like I mentioned, 48.4% ground ball rate. So maybe that's part of the picture as to why Rocchio, despite the fact that he does come with ample amounts of promises, especially from a batted ball situation, has been kind of underwhelming when it comes to the production. Now it's up to you and Joel to decide: is this someone that we kind of just stash on the bench and hope for the best later on as the year goes on, as the Guardians and us, we go through those growing pains? Do we believe in him to become like the next Stephen Kwan or the next Luis Arias? Because you don't have to just have power and the speed to be productive in Major League Baseball, but can you be productive in fantasy circles? And that's a question that
Right.
you and him have to answer. Sounds like your buddy Joe believes in him. I think it has to do more that he's a Guardians fan. That's why I always suggest do not get first of all, don't get attached to your players. But number two, don't chase your favorite team's players, because when it's time to make those big boy decisions, your bias towards your favorite team will blind you from making a good decision.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, I know that we only have a certain amount of time to make swaps because it's a weekly thing, so we can't. It's not like we can make daily moves at all.
Yeah.
So, it's
But
plus the injury bug kind of hit us hard.
yeah.
So
So yeah,
now Tristan Casas is out for 60 days.
yeah.
So
It's tough because you're in that situation. But I mean, the thing that's promising is maybe your buddy Joe is justified, is that he has posted good raw numbers in 2021. When you combine both high A and double A, that's 15 home runs and 21 stolen bases from a middle infielder. In 2022, that's a combined 18 home runs and 14 stolen bases from your middle infielder. And so he has shown that he can 25 stolen bases in 2023. The power was lacking, but he's only 22 years old at AAA. So maybe he was overmatched, but he still tried to hold his own. He had a 280 batting average, a whopping 367 on base. If he can come out and do this, what he did at AAA last year, and come up with 25 stolen bases, maybe that's your saving grace. Because
right,
280
but we don't
batting
get a lot of
average.
we don't get a lot of points for stolen bases in this league.
Yeah, yeah,
So
but
I mean, it's not like a roto league where that
yeah,
would be so beneficial.
yeah,
But
yeah. I get it,
I
but
mean, there has to be a leash at some point where we
mhm,
make it, make the pull. So we'll
yeah,
discuss that this week and go from there. Uh, I
yeah,
mean, plus, I mean, here's the thing though. Stuff like his stuff wouldn't be so exposing if other guys would be,
hmm
Acuna, Carroll, other guys were playing up to their, to their caliber of play. I'm not saying this guy needs to go unlooked at, but it wouldn't be so blaring
yeah.
if other guys around him were playing better on the team.
Yeah, but it is a keeper league as well. So you got to account for that as well. I think, and you get like to keep him for 200 plate appearances, which he probably will hit it this year. Oh,
Well,
yeah, he's
no,
already
well, no,
there.
so after this year, we send everything back. It's a
But
reset league
don't you keep
after
your
3
minor
years.
leaguers though?
We keep the minor leaguers, but they have to stay in the minors the entire time.
Oh, I thought there was like if they don't reach a certain plate appearance threshold, but
Maybe it is
it's
certain plate appearance. I mean, I have to look at that again. I
yeah.
thought it was they stay in the minors the entire time, but
But
maybe I'll
but
have to
you're
look at
right.
that.
You're right. For most leagues, they got to stay in the minors. And but let's face it, if the Guardians believe in Rocchio like your friend believes in Rocchio, he's gonna meet that threshold anyway. So we look. So I was just looking at his raw numbers, like his counting stats in the minors, especially in 2023 when he was a 22-year-old youngster facing this advanced competition at AAA minor league baseball. Yeah, he's only hitting 7 home runs, but again, he did get those 25 stolen bases. And you might say, well, stolen bases don't mean much in minor league. Okay, well, 33 doubles, you'll live with that. 85 singles, that's at least 1 point. I mean, 280, that's a lot of singles. 33 doubles, you'll live with that. And 6 triples, that's 3 points. It may not sound like a lot, but eventually it adds up. And that's how you got a well-rounded player. I mean, we saw Luis Arias be productive in points leagues as well, just because he was just hitting everything in sight. Maybe not sexy home runs, and in the case of Arias, not a lot of stolen bases either, from what I remember, because I know he's been battling knee injuries for a lot of his career. But that's the kind of upside we're trying to look for a guy like Brian Rocchio. If you're not going to hit for power, can you hit for gap power? Can you use your speed for triples and stolen bases? Maybe you don't hit a lot of home runs, but maybe you'll get 2 singles and a stolen base. That's 3 points, 4 points, maybe 5 points, depending on how many stolen bases, how many points you get for stolen bases. That's like four. That's anywhere between 3 or 5 points in one game at the very least. And 5 points times what, 6 games? That's 30 points right there. You rink and dink your way to 25, 30 points on a weekly basis. Where if you got a guy like Ronald Acuna, right? You got a Ronald Acuna.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can post what in 40 points in 1 week, but he's gonna be so steady. His low is gonna be like, what? Oh, he only got 18 points this week. Oh man, he sucks. No, he doesn't. 18 points is pretty good because next week he's gonna get you 40 points. So that's what you're kind of looking for. So that's the risk you take when you get these low upside guys as well, because at least you know the floor, but the floor is pretty low. But yeah, it's not to say that he doesn't. I mean, there's a reason why he's not just highly regarded among the Indians, but look, 59th overall according to Fangraphs top 100 prospect list. There must be a reason why he's ranked that high, and they don't. Yeah, they do ample amounts of research where they kind of see the upside and potential. So anyway, again, something that you and him have to talk about. But if you're already committed to Rocio this deep into the season, you might as well just go with him
I'm not sure we're
all the
committed.
way
It's
through.
more or less if how we can get, you know, things back on track with certain
Yeah,
injuries, but we'll have to see.
yeah, and it might just be it's just a waiting out situation. Like even Jose Ramirez was struggling this season. Not comparing Rocio to the next Jose Ramirez, but Ramirez, 259 batting average with a 276 on base percentage. Yeah, he's still hitting for much power, but this is not the Ramirez that we're used to seeing with the low batting average and the low on base percentage. But again, we don't give up on Jose Ramirez because he's just an explosive player. Already has 5 home runs and 4 stolen bases, and we're not even done with the month of April yet. So if you extrapolate that, that's another 25-20 season for him. 25 home runs and sorry, 5 times 6, 30, 40 times 6. Yeah, at the very least, you're getting another 25-25 season from Jose Ramirez this year. And that's beneficial to both points leagues and roto leagues. So the little things to think about with this game, that's the thing that I love about this game, is that there's just so many routes you can take. There's many ways to find contributions from people. Even those guys who hit a lot of home runs, they come with a lot of deficiencies, maybe higher strikeouts, low batting average, things of that nature. Let's see here. Who would fall under that category on the big list? And then we'll try to wrap things up momentarily here. So, Carrie, once again, I'd like to thank you for joining me. I know that you'd rather be doing other things,
No,
whether it
no,
be
it's
sleeping in or catching up on your to-do list and stuff. Go ahead.
no. I'm glad you have me on. I always learn something new every time I'm talking baseball with you. So no,
I appreciate it.
I'm grateful to be on. Fortunately, this is like my worst season because I'm so busy. So I can't do like the analytics part and like, statistics as
Yeah,
much as
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to.
yeah.
So I get like a refresher when I'm talking to you. So now
Absolutely.
I get, an hour or so with you to learn more. So it's great.
Hey, as
It's
long as you
great for us.
as long as you're getting something out of it, man, I will make time for you and anybody else. I would hate to just yammer on and people are saying, well, this is useless information. But Felipe doesn't know what he's talking about or whatever. But I don't have a really good example for you as a guy who can hit a lot of home runs. But on this list, Edouard Julien from the Minnesota Twins, I assume he's French Canadian, but he has a French sounding name. So I assume he's French. Second baseman for your Minnesota Twins, last I checked, already has 7 home runs. And that was a guy who was supposed to be the next Luis Arias, the high contact guy. But what this guy has is just a really good batting eye. Like he is patient to the extreme. But when
Wow.
you're patient like that, though, you do risk seeing a lot of plate appearances go against you. With the more pitches you see, the more likelihood it is you're going to strike out. That's why teams like the Oakland A's, that was their big thing, the money ball aspect of it. That's why they struggle so much, is because they were trying to grind at bats and force pitchers to throw as many pitches as possible. But when you do that, you let a lot of pitchers go by the wayside. and maybe instead of swinging at the fifth pitch, which would have been your pitch, you're swinging at the ninth and 10th, 11th pitch. And again, the more pitches you see, the more likelihood is you're going to strike out, or you're going to. But and not to say that we don't see these hitters succeed on 12 pitch at bats, but it honestly does seem like you're also opening up yourself for the likelihood of striking out as well. But Edouard Julien has 7 home runs, only one stolen base, so I guess you could say that he's primarily a power. He's been only showing his power hitting prowess so far this season, but he comes with a 30% strikeout rate. Now, Julien could be a very good, great overall hitter, but right now he's settling for power, and it's affecting his batting average to be 244. But it comes with a 343 on base percentage because he does know how to take a walk, 12% walk rate, which
Wow.
which doesn't sound like a lot, but on this list of 21 players, that's the actually that's the sixth highest on this list, behind guys like Jesse Winker, who's also been known to be a patient hitter, Blake Perkins, who was kind of new on the block, but yeah, very patient hitter. Oh, this guy that you might know of, Alex Verdugo, 13.2% walk rate,
Yep.
very extremely patient hitter, and is walking more than he's striking out. And he's having a pretty good season. Almost like Stephen Kwan. Almost.
Almost.
Almost. Jurickson Profar, who I recommended last week. And you just picked up Lamont Wade Jr., right?
Yep.
16.2% walk rate, which that's basically a walk per strikeout ratio of 0.63, which nowadays that's pretty damn good.
I mean, and who we traded to get him, it's
Which,
unreal.
oh, it
I
was a
mean,
trade.
we ended up trading the other closer that lost his job in Chicago there, Aluze.
Advert Alzolay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Lamont Wade Jr. is not the sexiest of picks, not the sexiest of first baseman, but
No.
when he's on fire, I mean, he knows how to hit.
But we need a corner outfielder after losing Tristan. So
Yeah, yeah. You could do much worse in a
yeah,
14 team league.
yeah,
Absolutely, you could do much worse than this guy. So a lot of flukiness to his game, but that's okay. We know what kind of hitter he is, and we're not necessarily asking him to be like Lou Gehrig or even Tristan Cassis. He just has to be the best Lamont Wade Jr. he could be, and he should be able to produce in the short term for you. And right now he's hitting the lights out of the ball. 488 BABIP, that's quite alarming. But I think we have enough of a track record to know who Lamont Wade Jr. is as a hitter, and I think we could be pretty confident. And I probably should be at the Giants, at the San Francisco Giants roster resource page. But here it is. Oh, he's in a platoon, and he is sitting against left-handed hitters, left-handed pitchers. Sorry, because they got a guy named Wilmer Flores, who they also love over there, and he's only starting against left-handed pitchers. So yeah, that's the downside of being a left-handed hitter on a team like the Giants, is that they are not afraid to platoon everybody, which is something that's how they found success. And remember, I think they beat the Dodgers in that one playoff series, if I remember correctly. That was the year where they were just platooning everybody on that team. Former MVP candidate Mike Yastrzemski platooned. It's crazy, but that's the Giants' way. But as you can see, Wilmer Flores, no home runs, no stolen bases, only hitting 227, despite the fact that he's supposed to be on a strong side of that against left-handed pitchers. That he's
Michael
supposed to.
Conforto. I remember that name.
Yeah, there's a guy that they're not benching because they paid a lot of money for the guy. But yeah, he's off to a slow start. 5 home runs, 277 at batting average. But the on base, I'm used to it being much higher than that. Although he does come with a 485 slugging percentage, so he's producing in other ways in terms of the power. I'm sure he has a lot of doubles this year too as well. But yeah, the on base, so I'm used to it being much higher than that. If he can get it much higher than that, then whoever picks up Michael Conforto might have just gotten a hell of a steal there. You talked about Masataka Yoshida, which is a hitter that I love. Um, I was thinking big things. I finally had to bench him and in my categories league because he was just not very good. He wasn't doing much. I saw the
But he's
lineup,
not playing. Now he's
right,
not playing.
and I saw who he was going to face this upcoming week. And I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of left-handed pitchers. Let's just bench him. I mean, maybe he'll do something good this weekend, but I can't keep throwing him out there and seeing these putrid numbers. And he's gonna get benched. I don't. I'm good. And then, sure enough, the Red Sox win 17-0 last night against my Chicago Cubs, and Yoshida just has a whale of a game yet last night. Uh, I couldn't believe it. And he's just right there on my bench. I'm like, mm. And that's the dangers of picking left-handed hitters, Harry. At least
Yep.
for me. And sure enough, I broke my own rules. I got a bunch of left-handed hitters on my teams. Dalton Varsho, Jack Sawinski, Masataka Yoshida. I just picked up Ryan O'Hearn, who's also left-handed. And now I got to look at, okay, are they facing any left-handed hitters this week? And sure enough, Masataka Yoshida. Oh, well, I think he was hurt. I didn't realize he was hurt. Was he hurt? Or he's not playing? Why was he not playing? Was he just getting benched? That doesn't sound right. That would explain a
No,
lot of things, but
yeah, no, he's been down for sure. His playing time has gone down.
like to the point where they're benching him for 5 games.
I guess so.
Oh my good, that can't be right.
Yeah, it's in my notes. Yoshida's playing time is down, and Noda from the A's has been awful.
I never liked Ryan Noda. I mean, he has massive power, but and I think in a 14-team league, maybe you're a little bit justified getting a guy like him. But I would have preferred Yoshida because he seems to be a more complete hitter. But
We have both, so
yeah, they're both struggling, so it doesn't matter. All right, Yoshida back in the starting lineup on April 27th. This is from RotoWire staff news. They will start Yoshida at designated hitter and bat six on Saturday's game against the Cubs. That was the 17-0 beatdown that they gave the Cubs. Um, his absence over the last 3 games coincided with Rafael Devers starting at DH. Oh, okay, because they're giving Devers time to recover before they put him at third base full time. So Yoshida was the sacrificial lamb, so Devers can get back into playing action at designated hitter.
gotcha.
So he's not hurt. He's just not playing because of the team. But he came back on Saturday and he made up for lost time. Red Sox appear reluctant to start Yoshida in the outfield early in the season. Devers will shift to third base for Saturday's game while Yoshida resumes his role as a designated hitter against the Cubs against right-handed Ben Brown. And boy, did they ever take advantage of that. So yeah, so that's why he was benched for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. He did show up for pinch hitting duties on the 23rd and the 25th. But yeah, that's not good. I don't like that one bit, Harry. I don't like that one bit that he's supposed to sacrifice. Because before
We
that, he had a pretty good game on 420 last week against the Pirates, where he went 2 for 4 with a looks like a 2-run home run, maybe definitely one home run.
we have no say in the matter though.
No,
You
no,
know,
no, but we should be getting that update. Like, hey, if I known, I would have. Well, I mean, I benched him just because he wasn't doing much, and I did notice the lack of playing time.
right.
But I couldn't. I figured that he was facing too many left-handed pitchers. I didn't realize that he was the sacrificial lamb for Rafael Devers. So had I known that he was going to start this week against the Cubs, well, then again, I think the Cubs had. Anyway, I don't remember what it was. I can't remember. I could have sworn maybe the Cubs had 2 left-handed pitchers coming in, maybe. But anyway, last night against the Cubs, 4 for 5, scored 3 runs and drove in 1 run. Got 9 points last night. So I wouldn't worry about Yoshida, I guess, anymore. I guess maybe it depends who he's gonna play against, who he's facing off against. But I think we can be comfortable starting him again this week. Let's find out. Yoshida, Masataka Yoshida. I like this game, man. I think I was pumping him up this past week, this past offseason. But he's got the Giants against Logan Webb, Ryan Walker, who I think he's right-handed, Kyle Harrison, who's a young left-handed pitcher from what I remember. Let me see here. Yep, left-handed pitch. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is that right? Kyle Harrison. Let's try this again. Yeah, he throws left-handed. And who's Randy Walker? Ryan Walker, sorry. Ryan Walker, he needs to step in. Right-handed pitcher. So 2 right-handed pitchers against the Giants at home in Boston. Logan Webb might be the tough matchup, but I think Yoshida can hold his own. And then again at Minnesota against right-handed pitcher Chris Paddock. Very good right-handed pitcher Pablo Lopez. and a very good right-handed pitcher against Joe Ryan. So it's a tough matchup, but at least it's only one left-handed pitcher, and that left-handed pitcher is a young pitcher who has shown that he could be wild at times. I would start him. I know I'm starting. I think I'm starting him in my Fantrax league that you just saw there as well. So anyway, that's what's going on with Yoshida. But at least we got that puzzle solved. And I think that's plenty, man. Unless you have other things to say, I think we basically covered the majority of your team right there on the spot. Anything else
No,
you
we
wanted
did.
to delve into?
No, we covered almost everything, so I'm good. I'm good for today.
All
I
right,
appreciate
so
you having me on. I learned a lot. I always learn a lot from you, believe it or not. And I don't think so, but yeah, I remember. I don't, you know this stuff like the back of your hand. I'm just getting back into it, so
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
I need to go on Fangraphs more and become more familiar with it. It's just finding the time. I don't like looking on my phone. Like I like to be able to
Yeah,
look on the computer, and I do have the laptop upstairs. Maybe I gotta crack it open a little bit more. Take like, a half hour before I go to bed or something.
yeah. It's convenient
Um,
though when you do it on your phone. I mean, I sometimes I don't have time to be on my laptop, so I'll just start looking up players on Fangraphs on my phone, and luckily I'm able to link my account to my phone, and that way I can look up the numbers, the complicated numbers I look at, and make sure I'm making a sound decision with these players. And there's more than one way. Like I said, there's more way than one way to skin a cat. People will look at me and say, "Well, Felipe, that's too extra. Who has that kind of time? With kids and work and just life in general and bills to pay and all that, side hustles." But you know, I'm a little obsessed in that regard. I'm not saying you have to do it that way. There's at Fantrax, I think they do a very good job of laying out the stats that you need to make a sound decision, especially if you're playing categories leagues.
right,
But yeah, you don't have to do Fangraphs, but it is a helpful tool. Just and it's because you can customize it as well. So I know that I customize my stuff a lot, and
right. No, no, no.
yeah,
That's what I like about it. It gives you options to be able to customize what you want to look for in a
yeah, and
player or
and
a
maybe that's one
pitcher.
thing you and I can do is like maybe I can show you how to customize your own leaderboard page, because I have mine, but I don't like sharing it because that's like I feel like that's like my secret weapon.
No, it's not. That's you shouldn't have to share it.
Yeah, but it
You put
does.
the work in. How is that? How is that fair? Hey, just give me, just give me the cheat code. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way it works. But
Yeah,
sometimes you say things, and that's where I pick up the knowledge from it. Like, okay, that
absolutely,
makes sense, and then that's
absolutely.
where I reciprocate it, to my buddy, or do my own research, make sure that what you're saying is accurate.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
obviously you're pretty much on the button for most of this stuff. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, though, like the player still has to play. You can have it all scouted all you want. If the player doesn't perform, I mean, if you look at my
Hmm.
team should be performing a lot better.
Oh yeah,
Just got some cold bats right now at the beginning of the
yeah,
season, but if my bats come alive, then I'm, somewhat dangerous. It's the
absolutely.
same thing in fantasy football. You
Hmm.
can't make the guys run the ball, throw the ball, make the coach make the play. You can only go by so much. There's only so much you can put out there,
Yeah.
and the rest has to actually work
Hmm.
as it's intended.
Yeah.
So
Players have to play. Yeah, and
yeah,
coaches have to coach.
but it's still early though. Like it's only
One
roughly
month.
1 month into the season. It's not terrible.
Hmm.
If we're talking June, then it's a little different.
Yeah,
But
because by then we should have a big sample size. Right now, we're trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
right,
By
that's a
how
great statement.
I would say by mid-May, that's the time to say, "Uh-oh,
Right,
we might be in trouble." Like I've that's usually by mid to late May. That's when I look at some of the players who I drafted maybe after the ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th round. That's when I start looking at some of those players that were drafted in the middle to late rounds. And I
right.
look at them and say, it's mid-May, late May. We're about to get into June. If I need to look elsewhere. I think I've done that with Marcelo Ozuna before numerous times, where I have given him more than a month or two to see if he can fix his stuff on his own. And it's getting to that close to the middle of the season, and I have to make a judgment call. And I've actually cut Marcelo Ozuna numerous times because he's not playing up to speed, up to par, and I gotta have all these other players that would look really good, and their peripherals and their advanced stats and their numbers behind the numbers are pretty impressive, and Ozuna's is not. I gotta make a judgment call and replace Ozuna off waiver wire and put Ozuna on waiver wire and bring up these other guys. because yeah, I mean there is a little bit of time, but you don't want to waste too much time dwelling on to see if guys will turn around. Now there's certain exceptions like Acuna, you have to wait. Tucker, you have to wait.
Well, of
There was
course.
there was another guy you mentioned.
Carroll, you have to wait.
You definitely have to wait for Corbin Carroll, but those are guys that you just have to wait. Same thing with Jordan Romano. You have to wait.
Yeah, I'm not worried. It'll
Yeah.
work itself out. So like, we're ranked, I think, in the standings like eighth or ninth, or we're between seventh and ninth, like on, depending on the week or whatever. So like that's gonna change. Like our bats are gonna come alive at some point. They have to. You hope so.
What's your point differential? That's basically you're subtracting the points for minus the points allowed on your end. Do you have that handy with you? Just out
Let
of
me see.
curiosity. That's usually a good indicator. Um, Usually, not always, not set in stone, but
I don't know
usually.
where. I'm not sure where it'd be.
Standings. Go to standings on your fan tracks.
Standings.
And since you're in a points league, it should give you the PF versus the
We
PA.
are ninth right now. It says
No,
games back, then FA,
free
and then
agents.
okay. So points for and points against. So
Okay, what's yeah,
points for is 17,254.
17,254
Point
minus.
four four point 412, and then minus 18,236 666. So yeah, so we're just going up against better, better production. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as fantasy football. Your points against is always what's gonna, you know, be the standard of how you're gonna do above. 'Cause you can be great all you want, but if your points against is higher, you're gonna be in trouble.
Now that's a negative point differential, but like you said, you're at 7 matchups, so I don't know how that would rank compared to everybody else. So I think you can even click on PF on the standings, and it should be able to sort it by points for. Can you do that on your side?
PF.
Yeah, points for on the standings page there. Can you click on the
I click on that.
that it's sorted by highest amount of points for versus lowest amount?
Yeah, so
What is your
we're ranked ninth.
okay? So you are what your points are. I'm joking, but no.
Or no. I'm sorry, we're not ranked ninth. We're we're 11th.
Oh, so even doing so it could be worse. Like if you have the ninth best record, it sounds like, but you only have the 11th most points. So, but like you mentioned, if Acuna plays up to speed, if Kyle Tucker plays up to par, if Corbin Carroll can play like the promising young player that he has shown so far this in his early career, we might be talking about a different game. So it's low, but we have so many good players on this team that we cannot judge it on the raw numbers for right now. So yeah, you're right. You still have to wait and see. I would say, I mean, but if again, these are players that you can't necessarily drop, and you can't trade either because you're not going to get the fair value for these guys because people are going to think, oh, I'm going to buy low on this guy.
Right.
So
No. We're kind of stuck with some of them, but that's fine. Like it's still
yeah,
early. Hopefully their bats turn around. I mean, I can't speak for the areas they're playing in, but like I know up here in the Northeast, it's still kind of chilly out.
hmm
Like,
yeah,
I'm wearing a thermal right now, on April 28th.
yeah.
It's been cold. It was somewhat a little bit warm yesterday, and then it got cold out of nowhere last night. So it's not the typical baseball spring fever weather that we're accustomed to. So as things evolve, I think, it gets warmer. This week's supposed to be warmer. It's supposed to be like 75 tomorrow here in Connecticut. So we'll see. I mean, so maybe all around it's just, bats start flying differently, start, swinging differently and balls start flying out. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, and not and just to for a point of comparison, I mean the podcast league I like to call it, it's on ESPN. I'm at 500 there. Pitching has let me down despite the fact that I did invest heavily on pitching. And I just lost Jesus Luzardo, who I have drafted him on every one of these teams. All three of
Oof.
my teams has Jesus Luzardo, so scrambling looking for pitchers, and like it's hard enough to find them in 14 team leagues. It's just as hard to find them in 12 team leagues. Maybe not as hard, but yeah, it's still not. It's not an easy task. I'm reaching on guys with no proven track record, but they happen to be playing the Oakland Athletics or the Washington Nationals or the Colorado Rockies. So I'm gonna take advantage of that matchup, but I don't feel good about it. I benched Grayson Rodriguez because he's facing the Yankees in the other league, my baseball life league. But in the podcast league, yeah, Luis Castillo, I had to bench because he wasn't playing up like an ace, and he was actually hurting my team more than helping. Of course, I bench him, and lo and behold, he's pitching like he's supposed to. Ain't that a
Yep.
bitch?
That
Andrew,
happens everywhere.
yeah. So just to show that I'm the guy who knows this thing, like you mentioned, like the things behind the the back of my hand. But even I'm struggling because the pitchers that I drafted early and often, they're not pitching up to speed. Same thing in my baseball life league. Although, yeah, the offense looks pretty well, but then the pitching just is a disaster. But then when the pitching looks excellent, the hitting is down. So it's even though, like, as of tax day, I have the second best team according to Roto standings, but it's a head-to-head league. So right now I'm currently in the middle of the pack with a 500 record. And then in the other league, I'm 3-1, probably the fourth best team in terms of point differential and points for. And I'm about to lose this week. I can't.
It's crazy.
I can't catch a break.
That's crazy.
So, but the one solace I take is I got off to slow starts in at the very least in my two category leagues, and I ended up winning those championships there. So it's a long season, lots of baseball left to play, lots of opportunities to make up for it. And in your case, I'm just basically waiting for that three-headed monster to uh show and produce like they know how, like Acuna, Kyle Tucker, Corbin Carroll, all those guys. So yeah, man. Well, I'm glad that you have a sunny disposition. I'm glad that you're learning and you're trying to do things, and that you being on this podcast helps. Like I said, I don't always have the answers. I still look up things. I have like multiple screens open at all times because I don't have all the answers. But I know how. I like to do research. I like to research on players. I like to figure out why certain players are succeeding and others are not. Yeah, Tyler Anderson might be a red flag, but you know what? If the pitching matchup's right, and if he's at home, definitely if he's at home, I think I would imagine. I think that would be the time to utilize him because he's gonna take advantage of his surroundings.
I agree.
That's my take on that. And then you got a guy like Freddie Peralta, who you almost have to start every week.
Have to at this point.
Yeah, and just to double check again because I don't have this stuff memorized. But let's see. So far, Tyler Anderson has pitched 3 games at home and 2 games on the road. And yeah, he has shown a little bit more promise at home than he has on the road. So yeah, the first 2 games. Oh, I'm sorry. I it's late. Okay. 3 games on the road, 3 games, 2 games at home actually. But yeah, 7 innings against Tampa Bay at home, 5 innings against the Orioles. Although uh, he his team lost that start, but he did get 7 strikeouts in 5 innings. So there's something to be said about that. Anyway, before we open up another Pandora's box, once again, Harry, thank you so much for coming on. Uh, have this one up and ready soon enough. Harry, thanks again. I am Felipe. We'll see you guys next time. So, oh, there it is.